Good morning, dear hearts and gentle people. Welcome to Who Am I? I'm so glad that you are back. I'm excited to be here, as a matter of fact. Where I am, it's 4:41 a.m. I find that I have an easier time hitting this tone and unfolding the connection between these ideas early in the morning before my day has encroached and all kinds of physical specific things to my life come in and ask for my attention. Here in this space in the dark before the dawn, I find that no one is up around me, and so I'm not taking away from my relationship with anyone around me. We have an exciting morning planned. We're going to go play 9 holes of golf at a little executive public golf course nearby. I have not played a round of golf since I sort of in a tantrum threw in the towel, if you will. And instead of playing the 19-hole public golf course in Pacific Grove, California, I only played the first 9, and the rest of it I pouted. I'm sure I pouted. It was a humiliating experience. I whiffed and biffed and... Well, actually that's not true. I've played Ladera since then. It was many years ago, though. We're going to have fun. My day will encroach. For now, I'm going to go into this more esoteric space. I recognize that it's a me that it's difficult to consciously be living out of every minute of the day because there's so much to it. You know, you're so big. When you pull your whole self together, there's a lot there. So now, what's the answer? If you can't do it consciously, then you just do it kind of unconsciously. What does that mean? Well, how do we live lives where we are allowing our broader perspective mind to have more say in what we do as opposed to just our physical mind always being responsible for coming up with it? And one of the reasons we do that is because we think that's the only aspect of our conscious mind, our physical mind. But we actually have more mind that we can become conscious of and more mind that we can start following the guidance of. Which brings me to the program that I am always espousing. This program I call Who Am I? It's almost becoming for me the Who Am I project. And I should go snag a website, it's true. But .com is gone. The whoamiproject.net is still possible. If you know me and you hear this video and you have an opinion about whether I should pick I already own the usersmanual.com, but the whoamiproject.net or the whoamiproject.org are both still available. .com is gone. If you have an opinion, let me know. Just text me. Tell me which one of these I should get. Anyway, so it's... my little show has sort of turned into that for me. The User's Manual Project could be one too. I picked that name in honor of my late husband, who had visions of us being wiser than we were at the time. Although we could get in touch with our broader perspective sometimes and feel very, very wise. I think we are discounting and diminishing the value of the human beings around us, the way we sum up and dismiss ideas and people along with it. So what am I going to do this morning? The question is, who am I? And the reference is source energy. Who am I in reference to source energy? How does my physical design, which actually also, it's not just my physical design, it's my psychological design, it's my spiritual design, it's my vibrational design, if you will. Because I want to bring esoteric terms down into ordinariness, matter-of-factness. What we're talking about is bringing the sacred and holy down into the matter-of-fact. And I don't mean it in a blasphemous way. I mean it in a way of truth and light and the proper spirit. When I say spirits, I'm actually meaning frequencies. It has to do with tones, notes that you're hitting. You are a transmitter and a receiver. You're a transmitting device and a receiving device. Amongst all the other things you are, who am I? Who am I? Fill in the blank. Who am I? Question mark. I am fill in the blank. And actually that answer changes a lot. And depending on how you're answering that question in any given moment, is determining how everything's turning out for you. And truly, which direction you are going. So we're going to assume a couple of things, some basic fundamental things about the nature of the grid around us. So here you are on the grid, and you're living your life, and you're looking around you, and you're trying to decide what to do. What to do? What should I do next? I get questions like that, specific questions like that from a particular person in my life. Really the only person that I allow to have come to me and ask me specific advice, although I don't want to give her specific advice. She still poses the question correctly, because now I have to go in and examine how I would find the answer to that from inside of myself. And then from there I could maybe give her advice. I can say, well, I don't know exactly what you should do, but this is what I think you should do to go about finding what the answer is to that. How you input it into your own internal system. How you contemplate it. For how long or in what manner. Looking in what direction, And then from that, when you hit that position and that tone, gazing in that direction, what does it look like from there? That's your answer. Now take the impulse from right there, what to do next. And I can't tell you specifically what to do. I've never wanted to tell my girls what to do, not even when they were so young that I really should have told them what to do. But because I believed that my people were off track, I felt reluctant to push my any of my views at them that I wasn't sure about. If I didn't know, then I was thinking, well, this could be where the flaw is. This could be where I don't want to pass this one down. I don't want to pass this one down. I don't want. How can I be so sure? If I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure. That's an unfortunate thing as a parent, because you really need to have a little bit more. You should. It would be what would have been better is had I known and then transferred the information to my young. That would have been better. But the fact that I didn't know and didn't push something I didn't know on them, I still believe is the preferable way to go. I'm tired of humanity resting in this place of superstition, you know, this place where we are not correctly understanding cosmology. Now, as far as, the feeling you have, the way you are receiving intelligence from your relationship with God, you know, I, I don't really presume to interfere with anything there. As far as I'm concerned, this understanding enhances everything else I've ever felt and thought about God, and it releases all of the scary places and all of the places where something deep inside of me didn't sit quite right. So I have this quote, this beautiful, beautiful quote. Actually, it's two quotes, and I noticed a long time ago how similar these two were. I don't think that I found them together. I think that I found them separately and noticed how similar these two quotes were. But if I'm misremembering that and somebody else already put them together and I was just wise enough to notice how cool this was and save it, well, that's something too. And I'm sorry about my memory. But the quote is, I have one from Einstein and one from Baha'u'llah. When I was young, it seemed to me that the argument was more fervent out there. This question of, is the truth of our situation, is religion right or is science right? Is it science or religion? Science or religion? Are you a scientist or do you have faith? Do you believe in God and you have faith? Well, I have now come to understand why the faith thing matters. Because honestly, just chill out, because God really does have it covered. And the biggest thing that interferes with his ability to do his work, and I say this all sort of metaphorically, I'm going to go in and in a more scientific way, we're going to discuss what the cosmological configuration of our connection to our broader perspective, is. And we're not going to presume to say it in a way that, could just one sentence and it stands up in a hard classroom. But when you say it in 100 different ways, all running at the same thought, anybody with an open mind who looks at all the descriptions will go, oh, I can see the spirit, the common spirit here. I can see what they're trying to say. And that's all we're looking for. We're looking for a general gisty understanding of the nature of our being. And then we're going to, brush on some esoteric questions like, who am I? I'm sorry, that is the main thing. Where did I come from? How was I created? I think we were. Now, in two ways. Of course, there is incremental evolutionary processes at work that is doing most of everything everywhere around you. Things are evolving. The universe is expanding. You have an inner being that is learning. The whole thing is learning because all of the parts are uploading their information. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing now. So it's like all of the points are uploading to the whole, and all of the wholeness of the information of the whole, of the great allness, the almighty, I like to call it, is at the same time downloading all of its information down to the point. And at the same time, the whole thing is winking in and out, absolutely 100% brand new, fresh. Brand new. Every individual atom is sort of pulsating. It's winking in and out across the The event horizon of the 0 point energy field, as they're all like virtual particles, but it isn't. That doesn't mean they aren't real, and that doesn't mean they don't have a continuous um, experience. Like if you wink in and out and in and out and in and out, and every time it's new, but every time it's brand new, a brand new picture of the same exact thing, then it doesn't look like it changed. And that gives you the continuity of experience, which is wonderful. You want that. You like that. But then when you think about that, you go, oh, but what that means is actually that there's no physical reason why change and big change and good change or whatever change couldn't be made quickly. It could. It just, it doesn't, you don't want it to be too quickly. If it was like change, you'd get disoriented. This continuity of different coming in the same is helpful. It's helpful in your conscious experience. And so, of course, that's how it works. But when you realize that that's what's happening, then you realize, oh, anything's possible. It really is. And the other thing you realize is the whole rest of the world does not have to change with you in order for you to experience the universe that you prefer. So my desire to experience this experience by getting to the version of Earth where we make it past our ecological challenges, if you will. Because I do admit that in the version of Earth that I am living in right in this moment, and that everyone within earshot is going to recognize, this particular version of Earth has got some problems going on. Now, I don't focus on the problems, but I address them. It probably has an effect on my forward momentum, but I still have to do it. I do not like sixth mass extinction. I do not like war. I do not like it. I do not prefer it, and I am allowed to not prefer what I do not prefer. Now, do I judge it from a total standpoint, from an overall standpoint? Do I understand that war, when we make it to the place where it's like the stresses just can't contain anymore and we erupt into war, well, it always serves a purpose, and I know what the purposes are. Everything from population control to, which my husband always says jokingly, he does say it jokingly, to being able to release things like World War I. By the time it was done, so forget about all the death and ground up and gassed bodies in between. From the beginning of the war to the end of the war, or at the beginning of the war and then after the end of the war, the position that both servants and all women in general found themselves in was quite different than what it had been at the first of the war. It loosened up a whole lot of sociological restrictions and limitations that we had put on who we thought we were and what we thought was possible. And we were all pretty much more homogenized than we are now. As human beings, we had way more collective thinking. We had way less media choices to exchange our collective information to. And at some point in the narrative, the stresses of all kinds of things, everything from economies going poorly and territorial disputes. I'm not sure exactly what the spirit impetuses were behind World War I. I have a little more of an understanding with World War II because I have studied and thought about and pondered for many an hour over my considerably long life. The condition, that's not the word I'm looking for, the scenario syndrome of authoritarian psychosis, called many different things from different teachers looking at this phenomenon, trying to understand who we are and how this works. And I feel called, because I feel able to do this, I can get quite detached. And I have so much information over there on the other side of the detached line that it's way easier now for me to go over there in the detached place and, keep working on my neuro pathways inside of my brain. It's easier and easier for me to think about things that previously I was just able to go to think a thought, see it intellectually, see how it fit into everything else, and go, yeah, I can see that. And then just keep going on with whatever it was that you were doing in your life, the same patterns, the same habits, the same beliefs about reality. But it's starting to be different now, where the neural pathways are really holding on, and esoteric ideas that I previously just philosophically understood and could have even debated. There's no debate anymore for me. It's not a question of debate, and it's really not a question of my way or the highway either, because I recognize that from the broader perspective, and the actual true broader perspective includes every one of our perspectives, add it all up. That is the great the perspective of the Almighty. And each and every one of us is way more right and more special than we're giving ourselves credit for. And anyway, what do I really want to be saying about all of this? I usually talk about, my binary nature, our binary nature. We have and the binary nature that we are, you could look at it this way, delineate it this way: micro and macro. You have your overview and your specific view. That's one way to look at it. Another way that I delineate the binary is the form and the formless. You are this. You are the form and the formless. You are the quantum field becoming whatever it wants, with the rest of the field around it. Because if you were just by yourself, creating all by yourself, what are you playing with? What are you creating everything else from? The creation that you were making is the relationship you have between you and the allness. Those are the two big relationships you've got. Those are the two ones you need to tend. The most important one is between you and you, because that's the one that sets up how the other one goes. If you're square between you and you, then that means you are wise enough to be taking impulses off of your best self, off of your quiet inner self. Now, it's possible that you are an objective person. You're an objective person, and many of us have been trained to be objective. I still need to go back and do those quotes. Remember, I promised about these two quotes that meant so much to me, because the question of science and religion was such a dire thing when I was growing up. Anyway, actually, maybe I should go back to that right now. It is after 5 a.m., 24 minutes in. Doing just fine. Let's see, where is it on this? I pulled up my... Here we are. Oh, I don't... Fine. Okay. Here it is. My quote. Oh, that's not it. Sorry. So how many other ways can we delineate that? Actually, I didn't exhaust talking about the form and the formless. You actually are the formless. However, you are the expression of yourself. It comes in form. So you actually are form too, but you are primarily the formless and you are secondarily the form. And you don't need to worry about when this form passes, you will still exist. Don't worry about that. You will exist. So this is the two quotes. Science can only ascertain what is, not what should be. Though religion may determine the goal, it nevertheless learns from science, in the broadest sense, which means will contribute to the goal's attainment. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. That little quote, is from our friend Albert Einstein. I absolutely love that one. Now this one I love even more. This one comes from a man named Baha'u'llah, and that's how you pronounce it phonetically. I actually have no idea if that's correct, how you pronounce it. I believe he was the founder of the Baha'i faith. Science and religion are as the two wings of a bird, and the bird is mankind, which cannot fly on one wing alone. For the wing of science, if it lacks the insight of religion to balance it, leads to materialism. And the wing of religion, unguided by the reasonableness of science, leads to superstition. I like the way that the fulcrum hinges there. You go too far one way and you're in superstition. You go too far the other way and you're in materialism. And actually there's a balance point. There's a perfect balance point in between the two polarities. And that's actually the point where you stand. You stand there. And the binary becomes this trinary, if you will. That's my own word. I actually don't know if it's a real word. Trinary. So who am I? Isn't that the question? Who am I? Well, I like the binary thought. You are binary in the sense of you can toggle back and forth between two perspectives that are both you. Now, we're not very good at this in our present day society because we're not taught this clearly. We're kind of taught it vaguely and beaten around the bush and in a million different ways. We're not standardly taught about ourselves. This is who we are and this is the way reality is. And for good reason, because but the understandings that I'm talking about are really only general guidelines, general understandings of the general setup. The beautiful thing about the whole thing is how much choice each and every individual has in the way that they can interact with the world around them and decide, which way they want to go with things. Like I was saying earlier, you have my desire to experience the universe where mankind makes it past its problems into a really beautiful, fun, I need to devote an entire episode to a description of the things that my imagination can see in our possible potential future. If this, and then if this, and then if this, it would turn out, then we would live naturally through our natural state. As a matter of fact, I think eventually we're heading this way because this is the truth. what I believe about what us is what the truth is. And my understanding of what that truth is does indeed shift as I gain more and more and more information. It's a universe of addition. Just keep adding to what you know. Add to what you know. If you're an or person, you might be in trouble. If you've been sifting and sorting with what you believe, and is it this or is it this or is it this or is it this? Is it this or this? Is it this or this? Well, just throw it all in there. Believe it all for a minute. Throw it all into the pile and then see how it plays with each other. And then you go, oh, wow, look how that's organizing. I believed all of that stuff. I didn't know how. And I didn't... Actually, I do need to explain that because there's a certain art to being successfully gullible. And there is a lot of failure in being gullible when you aren't doing it quite correctly. I'm not really advising you to be gullible in the traditional sense, but I started out gullible. I believed everyone, and I still kind of do believe everyone. I am capable of inputting everybody's thoughts in at the top of the program. I just put it in because in my grid inside of my head, it all fits. You and your completely different ideas fit in the same universe as I with my completely different ideas. The fact that everyone has such different viewpoints is fine. And so you just have to set your grid up so that it allows for diversity. If you have it set up homogeneously so that it either has to be this or you don't know what to do with it, so you throw it out, then I think you've skewed your picture. I don't think your allness picture is really coming out as a good reflection of what the allness actually is. So many interesting things to see. I've hit a vantage point right now. I have been drinking for the last week. We went to see family in Tucson, and then on our way back, we stopped in Truth or Consequences and soaked in the hot tubs, and we stayed at Blackstone Spa and hot springs, and it was gitchy. We stayed in the I Dream of Jeannie room. It was actually really quite cool. It was way better than a hotel room. And you had your own private outdoor hot mineral bath. We soaked in it 3 times. It was really cool, very nice. But we went to a restaurant that had kava, which apparently is a traditional. It's kind of medicinal, it's kind of social, it's kind of recreational, it's pretty subtle. It tastes wretched. It is so horrible tasting. But I bought a 40 ounce, actually no, I bought a 64 ounce, I bought a half-gallon jar at this restaurant to go and brought it home. And have been drinking a serving, which is an 8-ounce serving of this tea, kava tea. He grated it up fresh and made a tea out of it and then sold it to me. He has a connection to getting the kava. It comes from Vanuatu. But he gets it through a friend or a connection that he's got. Spent a couple of months in Fiji a few years ago, and I think those experiences really influenced the restaurant there too. It was although it was called Carib Cafe, so it's more of a Caribbean thing. But he had this kava tea, and I've been using it every morning, including this morning, which has allowed me to sort of my inhibitions about being a mere mortal, and then deeming to describe the great almighty, I am unworthy, I am unworthy. It gets me past that point and allows me to say what I do have a right to say. Because the question is, who am I? And I mean it sincerely as a human being. And I am a human being. And so I'm allowed to ask that question. Now, it's true, I now have listened to several channeled entities, and I've been interested, yes, in a new one. And anyone who loves me who might be concerned, oh my God, she's listening too much to so and so. I don't take what so and so says like religion, like you do, Mom. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I reveal who might have believed that? And to be fair, she absolutely was sweet. She was not that harpy that I just imitated there. I'm sorry. Forgive me, my darling, if you ever hear this. Because you inspire me. You inspire me to answer bigger questions and to actually address. Yes, it is true that some people have issues at times with quackadoo leaders. But if you listen to the guy who channels Bashar, the fact is that he's a perfectly reasonable person, and the ideas and understandings that he has joined and espouses, many of which, you just see the beings all over Gaia, all over YouTube. They're everywhere around you. The gurus, the teachers, the healers, people are getting it. They're getting it more and more and more. This general understanding of this field that connects us all. We are inextricably connected. You do not have to fight or fuss or try in any way to get to that point. We are connected to one another. We are a single morphogenetic field across the planet, especially as human beings, but you could go farther than that as biology. We are a single morphogenetic field on the planet. And we as human beings need to use our freaking noodles and understand our place in all of this and feel it and know it and know our general setup, how we interface with the reality around us, how reality itself comes into being mathematically. Generally, the general aspect of this that we all have in common. And then we have our own specific diversity that's blessed and wonderful and encouraged, necessary. It's beyond encouraged. Our diversity, each of us being ourselves, being our authentic individual selves, and in our own way, interpreting this world and all that's all really important. So who am I? I alluded to the fact that we are a transmitter and a receiver. And some people that hear this, they find that to be news. They have imagined that we are more physical objects than we are, or we're a combination physical, spiritual object, and these two aspects of ourselves are rather unrelated to one another. There's one thing going on one place and another thing going on somewhere else, or maybe they haven't thought about it. They're just looking at their physical world and taking it at face value. Now, that right there is a problem, because if you don't understand your own nature, then you do not understand what your negative emotions are actually trying to tell you. They are not telling you anything. They are not giving you any kind of existential evaluation of the meaning of life. They are giving you, in some moment in time, a hit on an experience that you don't like. Somebody's mean somewhere. Something you loved was hurt. Something that you love is destroyed. You are hurt. Or there's all kinds of things that people can witness that they don't like. Now, you can get really good at focusing only on what you like. And I would advise that. But I wouldn't advise it in naivety. Don't do it in a Pollyanna sense. Understand somewhere within you, because you have been given this information somewhere along the line. I'm sure you have. If you live in the 21st century, you have heard dark news. Now, what you have done with that dark news is up to you and makes all the difference in the world. It's determining your path, your individual track on the grid. Where are you going in the labyrinth? How you're looking is determining which direction you're going. If it feels good emotionally, I'm talking about emotionally, I'm not saying, oh, it tastes good and it's warm and cozy, therefore it must be good. That's not what because sensations, although sensations are very unpleasant, they can be very pleasant. They're not necessarily the perfect indication of the pathway. I mean, they are or they aren't. Just because something feels good doesn't mean you're not on the path. I mean, you could be. But you also could be drowning yourself in physical sensation in order to avoid mental things that you haven't lined up. You don't have all of your energies lined up with one another. And if something in your conditional world maybe generates, inspires, I'm not sure what the right word is, summons a particular negative energy from you, like you fall into a certain emotional state, anger, jealousy, whatever, hatred, fear, threat, desperation, those are all negative states of emotion, right? You hit one of those and all of a sudden you are disconnected from your greater positive self because you haven't thought it through. You don't realize that you are a whole person and all of your negative self is also part of you. It's just coming at you. What you need to do is take your negative self with a grain of salt, which I find ironic because I am such a salt fiend. I love salt and I use lots of it. Pretty much 95% of all that I use is Himalayan pink salt, maybe even higher. These days it's just so simple. I do own other salts, Celtic Grey, Hawaiian Red, Hawaiian Black, Hawaiian Green, Hawaiian White. I got all the Hawaiians down. What other salts? Anyway, it might just be metaphorically, or there might be some physical reason why I crave salt the way I do. I'm not going to say that I'm wrong. I'm going to assume that there's a reason why I'm craving such things and just go with it. So who am I? And where do I want to circle back around to? We talked about being binary, and we were delineating it in several ways. The overview and the specific view. That's the micro and the macro. The form and the formless. And how are you identifying? Are you more identifying with yourself as form, or are you more identifying with yourself as formless? Now remember, you are both. And if you are, so it is true that when your physical body dies, it's gone forevermore. Well, actually, I don't know about that. Let me think about that. The spirit of what I'm thinking of, I believe, is still true. There is something poignant about the passing of a specific physical form that you have loved. But there is also something really powerful and meaningful about knowing that the foundational, fundamental consciousness behind the being that was in that form does not pass, does not die, does not extinguish. it keeps going. You are a continuum. And you are moving through time, casting your preferences, establishing your preferences. You know, we've lived a lot of life, and we have established now a great deal of we've come to a lot of understanding. And you can focus on all of the beings who do not understand, if you want to look at it physically. Or you can just go into the esoteric and go, yeah, but the understanding is there, and there are people who are there with it, and I could be there with it, understanding. Or I could be focused out on the ground, noticing all the people who don't understand. They're never going to get it. Well, that doesn't help. So I'm going to repeat a thought from earlier. My freedom to choose a life in a world where we make it past our greatest, gravest challenges does not in any way interfere with anybody else's right and ability to experience a world where we do not. And it is yours to choose. And it is mine to choose. And so I do not need to be evangelical. Except when I do need to be. I mean, at some point I feel like my voice would like to be heard. I would like to get clear, and then I would like to get heard. Right now, if you are witnessing this show, what you're listening to is me getting clear. Not me getting heard. Although yesterday's episode was watched 4 times. Now, I don't know whether that's 4 different people heard that, or somebody watched it and then said, I cannot believe what I just heard. Let me listen to that outrage again. I don't know. I actually don't know what constitutes more than one listened to by the same person. Do I have to go all the way from the front, from the beginning of the video all the way to the end of the video, and then start it over again? What happens if I listen to it halfway and then start it over again and do that 10 times? Does it register, how does it register? How does YouTube register that as how many hits? I have no idea. I think about that only because I wonder what is somebody being interested about what I'm saying, The thing is, I do this early in the morning before my actual day starts, and then I have a world and a life just like everybody else. I come into this space, and I'm toggled back to the broader perspective for the most part, but I try not to get too far afield. I try to stay tethered to my specific person who moves about the world and has certain concerns. I pay bills. I have energy needs. I buy products from the the human supply chain. I'm involved. I'm involved with everything physically. And I have certain actually what I'm saying is that I am no different than you. I am not channeling a different being. I last year determined that what my desire was, I wanted to channel my own inner being. I wanted to allow my own broader perspective to come forth and say what she wanted to say. She's been looking at things all of my life. She's been very interested in certain things. And the two of us are me. So when I say it that way, she has wanted, It's my lame attempt to kind of consciously show that I understand that I am 2 beings. And you are 2 beings. And I've been trying not to change to another screen because I've wondered what it would look like or sound like if I just stayed on this screen for the whole episode. It's just me talking. There's no visual aids of any sort. But I find that I just can't help myself, and so I come back to this picture. This is you. This is you, source mind, specific mind. This is you, eternal and expirational. This is you, quantum field and conventional physical body. This is you, vibrationally speaking, and you are vibrational. Even your conventional body is vibrational. And as such, it is vibrating a signal. You have a vibrational offering that you are like, I should have a little offering slide here where I have a symbol of a person making something that looks like a supplication offering unto the gods or the temple or whatever. What you're doing is you are offering a vibration unto the universe, and this vibration that you are offering to the universe is you. It's you in any given moment, and it has qualities to it. It's a certain frequency. It involves a whole lot of information. You're a carnal engine to begin with, burning at almost 100 degrees for your entire life. And if you are anything off of that, except for pretty dang close to that 98.6 that you are your whole life, you're having a bad day. You go up or down a couple of degrees and you're having a terrible day. So you have this thermal output that can be read. We have instruments that can read this, the thermal output. Your brain is producing an electromagnetic field. It can be read by we have a device these days, it's called a magnetoencephalogram. A magnetoencephalograph actually is what's read. It's a machine that sits outside of your head skull like a hair dryer. It doesn't touch your head, but it's reading the electromagnetic field that your brain is producing. Your heart is producing another one. Your heart is a much bigger electromagnetic field than the one that your brain is producing. And it can actually be detected by more conventional equipment. I have heard that you can buy equipment at Lowe's that can detect your heart, the electromagnetic field of your heartbeat. It's big enough. So all of these things, you have a big signature going on here, and the universe is responding to it because we are one morphogenetic field that is exchanging information all across the field. That's what a morphogenetic field is. It's a field of information. And there's all these different fields of information within other fields of information within a wholeness, a set of all sets, which is the Almighty morphogenetic field, which is the universe itself. Or actually, you can go probably higher than that, the multiverse. And then the multiverses. Is there any reason why you can't just keep scaling up, 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 and down, down, down? The sub-Planck and the sub-sub-Planck and the sub-sub-sub-Planck. It's a scaling factor now. And all the densities exist, or at least it would make sense to me. And the new physics, the new unified physics, the mathematics does support this. That it is a question of scaling, and it's all here with us right now. Russian doll, nested multiverses. Morphogenetic fields of information. A vibrational universe pulsing in and out across a virtual singularity, becoming whatever desire in the field wants. And what is your inner being looking at? It's looking at what you want. But it's not just looking at what you want, it's looking at what you want at the point where everybody's want comes together. That's where it's looking at it most fiercely. If you start getting a bead on what helps us all, and yourself included, it's not you sacrificing yourself for the whole. That's very romantic. But the more productive position is where you don't sacrifice yourself for the whole. You find your blessed joy, your blessed dreams come true, your happily ever after, your the key to your plugging into your most effective, highest self for the most fun and effective life. If you find that for yourself, and you add that to the mix of the whole, you have blessed the whole way better than if you threw yourself, in front of a train to kill yourself and for the betterment of the whole. What does that teach anybody else about what they could do to help the whole? Are we all going to jump in front of trains? Who's going to end up living happily ever after if all of us are sacrificing ourselves for the whole? I think the sacrifice for the whole idea actually takes you to kind of a scary place where the state rules and the individual doesn't matter. Personally, I believe that that's possibly the road that goes down on. And I do have a hypersensitivity about the dangerous nature of authoritarian psychosis and the autocrat himself, and the lockstep and groupthink, and the meanness of spirit that descends. There are certain things that could happen if we elect the authoritarian. And the reason that we would do it is because there is a vortex of dissatisfaction. People are pissed. People are angry. They are angry at the way their government works or doesn't work, thinks or doesn't think. Everybody's angry about different things, but in certain areas there are some people who have banded together. Their pissed offness is resonating with other people's pissed offness, and they are banding together to elect a pissed off man. Well, positive will come of it. Positive came of World War I, and positive came of World War II. But at what cost? It was very, very high cost. We could do this more simply by just understanding ourselves. And then we would know that we do not have to be at war with one another. We do not have to, not civil war, not international war. We could be peace on earth, goodwill towards men, but we need to understand ourselves. We need to raise our consciousness here. And the other service that the other thought that I hope to serve in making this program that I make is somewhere down the line, I would like humanity to loosen its grip on fossil fuels. I believe that many, many physical benefits will come of this. 4 years ago, when COVID shut down a lot of manufacturing all over the planet because people were afraid for the workers to go to work in concentrated groups, they were spreading COVID to one another, and they were dying by the hundreds and thousands, and I don't know how many people worldwide died from that disease, and I'm very sorry about it. And they continue to die at lower rates because it's mutated and diffused somewhat. It's not as harsh as it was to begin with. I know people who had the original version of COVID the first year, and they still are experiencing degradation in their health. There's things that have in their breathing and their heart stamina that are compromised from that has never gotten better. But the point being, what was my point? Oh, when those factories shut down and the smoke quit belching out into the poison, quit belching out into the atmosphere, the coal or whatever, a lot of it was Chinese, a lot of it is Chinese. Chinese coal-fired plants are the engines of the industrial production going on from China. There's a great deal of it, and it's very poisonous. Well, it stopped for a little while because of COVID, and immediately the skies cleared up, the water got better. I mean, it wouldn't take us long if we had a different source of energy, if we had a clean, absolutely clean, free, or almost free once you set up it would be free once you've created the devices. And then once you've created the devices, now you've got clean, free energy, you can create more devices. And so from then on, you'd be good. You'd be set to go. I believe that this is our future if we're going to make it past our problems. And if I want to dial into a version of Earth where we do get past our problems, I've got to dial down into this thought. So that's another reason why I do the show. It's partly in service of me tuning into the universe I am interested in experiencing. But I do not have naivety about how bad it can get amongst human beings when we do not understand ourselves. I think some people are underestimating it. Or maybe they have huge emotions and they totally understand. They totally get, how dark it can get. Well, if you deeply understand that, do you still understand how light it all is? How imperfection the design is? And if you would dial into its perfection and line up with its natural processes, line yourself up with it, you could flow with all of life in this beautiful, blessed, harmonic way. The choice is yours. You can do anything. You can go into darkness. You can go into light. You can go into success. You can go into failure. You can blame everyone else because they are obviously responsible. Look what they're doing. Or you can realize that you, blame or not, blame aside, you have all the control that you need to have in order for you to create an enormously satisfying life for yourself, and at the same time be a tremendous benefit to the world around you. That is what is in potential for you. For you, any you out there, any you, there is room enough for all of us. It doesn't look like there is, but it's because we're not looking in the right space. The space where all the room is inside of us. It's inside of your consciousness. You have such a vast capability of seeing the totality of the enormity of the universe from inside of your own consciousness. It's like you've got a mirror inside there that is capable of reflecting the whole thing. And if you get that angle just right, it comes into your view and you go, oh my gosh, I can see it, I can see it, I can see it. It's so cool. The universe is so cool. Maybe that's my thesis statement. The universe is so cool. Would everybody quit? Please, please, please quit paying so much attention to the crap in this world and pay a little more attention to the design of this world and how cool it is. And then it might dawn on you the implications of how we can use this design to get out of what we imagine are our air quotes, physical problems are physical problems, whatever they are. I say that in air quotes because in actual fact, the physical world isn't actually physical. It's still vibrational. And it is literally winking in and out of complete existence billions of times every second. So where do we go from here? Let's see, you're a transmitter and a receiver. A clear transmission from your part will allow the universe to hand you clearly what you want instead of handing you this mixed bag all the time of what you want and what you don't want, what you want and what you don't want, what you want and what you don't want. One of the reasons it keeps doing that is because the way the focus of your attention is going. You keep looking at what you like and then what you don't like, and then what you like and then what you don't like, and then what you like and then what you don't like. And you're doing it because you think that you need to be objective. You need to be objective about this objective, real reality. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not as objective as you think it is. The universe actually is subjective. From every one of our individual points of view, it is highly subjective, as a matter of fact. And what you get, there is not a physical reality except for a quantum soup of information. It is only that information field that we are sharing. The way every single individual experiences that is so wildly different, it's so relative, that you can't say that there is a physical objective reality that we are all sharing. It is, but it isn't, you know? And getting a handle on where it is and where it isn't is part of the fine-tuning of what I'm talking about here. I usually start bringing up this information too, the emotional guidance scale, because those two minds are creating this. Your emotions are a mix of your two minds. Now remember, your source mind is always positive. As a matter of fact, it's always love. It's not just positive, it's love. It is focused on what we all love. And what we all love is freedom, abundance, clarity, comfort, I don't know. Try to find the general place, the win-win-win-win, the place where we all agree. That place where it is the co-collaborativist that it could be. The most co-collaborative, the most cooperative, the win-winniest point. Let's see. Where do I want to go from here? The emotional guidance scale lets us know when we have moved away from our own source. You know when you have dialed into your own source because it feels good. It feels really, really good to be in resonance with your own source, your core being. You may be attributing this core being, this inner you may be attributing it to resonance with God or resonance with something outside of yourself and far away or really big, or there's different ways to observe this sensation, what it feels like to resonate with your inner core. But I'll tell you right now, what it does feel, however your physical mind is interpreting the experience of it, the feeling of it is it feels emotionally really good. It feels really good to be in resonance with your higher self. And it feels quite bad to be out of resonance with your higher self. And when you're out of resonance with your higher self, you're just in negative emotion. Any form of negative emotion, anything from boredom all the way down to jealousy and depression and revenge and, all of the harsher, expressions of negative emotion. If you are in any state of negative emotion, you have unplugged your identity plug, your I am. You've unplugged it from your source and you've plugged it in somewhere else. You have this like mysterious plug. It's physical, I think. It's also metaphysical. It is probably located somewhere within yourself, maybe right around your heart or your solar plexus. Maybe it's an expression of all of your signatures of vibrational offering being in alignment with one another, your head and your heart being in resonance with one another. There's an institute out there. It's been out there for about 25 years, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but I think it's right about 25 years. It's called, I think it was founded in 1999, so that would be 25 years ago. It's called the HeartMath Institute, and they study the heart-brain connection. They call it heart-brain resonance. Do they call it? They call it heart rate variability. The better your heart rate variability is, the better your mind and your brain and your heart have linked up with one another. There's a particular frequency involved. It's a 0.1, I think, hertz that links your heart and your brain together. And then when they are working together, now you are a full, wise human being. You are in alignment with yourself. If you do not have this heart-brain connection, if your heart and your brain are not connected to one another, then your brain is off doing crazy shit, thinking thoughts that are not grounded, that are not heart-based, that are destructive. Actually, it's very interesting. There is this concept. One of the thought teachers that I found a number of years ago, maybe 2016, maybe. I'm not sure exactly when I discovered Paul Levy and his take on the situation. I thought it was very interesting. He speaks of a concept that he calls Wetiko. And Wetiko is this idea that he took from Native America, the Native Americans, and many of the different tribes had a tradition something like this, with a word that sounded something like this word. You can hear the word, like Wendigo is another way to say this word. Sometimes it's associated with a mythological monster, that has certain monstrous characteristics. But what it actually is it's a psychic blindness. The way that the Native Americans would draw this phenomenon, they would draw a human being and they would have their head up in the air, not connected to their body. And before the white man came to the Americas, they still had this concept, but it was more of a rare thing. It was a phenomenon that they noticed in one another sometimes, this psychosis that would overcome certain of them, where they would get split, their head from their body, and they'd be so sure about certain things, and their sureness would cut out anybody else's ideas. It was very subtraction consciousness. And then the white man came over, and the Native Americans noticed that this was a ubiquitous condition amongst us, our heads and our hearts not being connected with one another. So Paul Levy calls this Wetiko, and now I've ventured a bit far afield, so I can't remember exactly why I wanted to describe Paul Levy's idea of Wetiko, but it does weave in here because people under the auspices of their negative emotion are sort of, it's the equivalent of being under the influence of Wetiko. It's a mind virus. It's a psychic mind virus. It's a blindness that imagines that it is more sighted than anyone or anything else. So it discounts anyone else's sight. No, I see this. You don't see this. I see this. And what is happening is they're not seeing something. They're locked in a negative state of being, and they are not seeing the wholeness, the fullness, the love, the expansion, the eternity, the joyful, connected goodness that we all are. They are under the influence of Wetiko, and I can't remember why I started this. This idea of Wetiko is going to come back. There's a reason why I keep being pulled to Paul Levy's description of the universe. It's not that I think that he's right above all others. It's just the way that the story that he has to tell illuminates something about who we are. It's very interesting. Back to the emotional guidance scale, you are two minds. Remember, your source mind and your specific mind, and these two minds are completely independent of one another in a way. And yet they are anchored together from the same, they originate from the same point of spin, maybe, or they're deep down they do, or they're connected somehow within the spin. I'm not sure exactly how to describe this. They are independent in the sense that you, physical, conventional you, have the free agency to take any position that you want, take any thought that you want, make any conclusion about the world that you want, anything. You are free. You are free, 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 free. Now, your source mind is not as free because your source mind is stuck in a formula, and I'll tell you what your source mind is looking at. First of all, it is locked into everything that is. Your source mind is aware of all the atoms, where they are and how they are moving. All the blood flowing, the wind blowing, the creatures creeping upon the earth, and the planets spinning around the heavens, and all of that. Your source mind is aware of all the physicality of all of everything. As a matter of fact, the physicality turns out not to be a problem because it's encoded everywhere. All of the information of all the universe is encoded everywhere. In every part, all of the information exists. So that the physicality is not quite as big a trick as you thought it was. What the formula of what your inner being is doing, it's aware of all reality, and it is focused upon what we all want. Collectively, what we all want individually, how that converges in a blessed convergence point, because it does. What I want, what you want, what everyone wants, ultimately converges. And if it doesn't look like it converges, it's because we're all translating it with our physical minds into different things. But the purity, the true spirit, the reality of what we all want converges. What we all want is freedom. What we all want is joy. What we all want is safety, security, a secure environment in which to live out our lives and raise our children and gather our food and enact ideas about what we could create that would be better, that would be more connected, that would be more wholesome, that would be more conducive, more in alignment with our needs and our that's what we want. That's what we want. We all want that. Every single one of us. Now, what's in the way? A lot of how we are translating the world around us is in the way. I'll give you an example of an idea that is in the way of us getting what we want. There are many people out there who believe that we live in a paradigm of scarcity, that ultimately the setup is a setup of scarcity. The pie is finite. And you can think of it as finite because we're getting to the position where we're getting so good, our sensors are so good that maybe at any given time we could add up what is existent in the pie, and we know that's a finite number, and so we call the pie finite. We don't recognize that the source of the pie, is absolutely infinite, and therefore the pie is infinite. The source of the pie is infinite, therefore the pie is infinite. And that paradigm of scarcity that we have created for ourselves, I think a lot of it is hinging upon where we're getting our energy source from. Our energy source being fossil fuels, and by definition, we have been led to believe that energy is difficult to come by, because all of the easy ways that we could have gently transitioned from this hardcore addiction to fossil fuels that we are experiencing right now. For the last century, these kinds of devices have been suppressed, and ruthlessly suppressed, and sometimes murderously suppressed, in order to keep the present paradigm going. Because the momentum of our physical structures right now is in the hands of a very small number of individuals who have a great deal of power across the globe now. We are in that moment in time. But our understanding is going to bust us out of it, so I'm not overly concerned. It's just get a load of this picture. And we don't want this. And now let's head off in the direction of what we want. And the direction of what we want is a future of clean, free energy at the point of desire, anywhere where desire is, where that energy is needed. Free, clean energy plugged into the source of all energy. It really wouldn't be all that hard. It certainly isn't impossible. And if we would take a lot of our great minds, our minds of physics and our minds of mathematics, those people who are capable of understanding this complicated technical stuff, and have them put their intelligence upon how the universe really is, how reality really is unfolding. Put it on an understanding of the unification point between the quantum world and the cosmological world. There really is a connection. They really do relate to one another. And the way they relate to each other has to do with consciousness, has to do with morphogenetic fields of data and information, and has to do with scales. Overview, specific view. It's all related. It's all related. So who am I in all of this? And how does any of this, how does it reflect upon what I should do? And the meaning of my own life, and my own desires, and my own path forward, and how do I interpret the world around me? Because there sure are a lot of things that when I glance at them, I notice that I really don't like them at all. I do not like Holocaust. I do not like mass murderous human behavior. I do not like sixth mass extinction. I don't like war in general. I don't like drowning polar bears, and I don't like orphan elephants, and I do not like clubbed to death baby seals. I do not like starving children. I do not like children in cages at my own country's border, because people trying to flee issues in their own country want to come to my country for us all to help one another. And Ultimately, the answer is going to be both a collective understanding that we are all one, on the one hand, and then an individual understanding that you can't flee your own problems. You got to figure out who you are, wherever you are. All of that, this is true. At some point, perhaps Americans might be fleeing America, and let's see how welcoming Canada is, or Mexico. That would be ironic, wouldn't it? They'd be like, no, 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 we're not letting you in. You didn't let us in, we're not letting you in. It doesn't matter. My playing with the musings of what dramas could unfold about all this is not actually my preferred vantage point. What I want to get to at the end of all of this narrative, as we discuss source energy, what the hell is source energy and how does it work? First of all, it's spin. Know that it is spin. The source of all motion everywhere is spin. My hands moving around, it's spin. The something falling to the ground because it got knocked off the table, it's all spin. And why does it look like it's not spin? Why does it look like other things, straight lines, and it looks like different things? Because we're mostly spinning at the same rate. As a planet, we're all spinning at the same rate. Well, not exactly. The surface is spinning at a different rate than the core because of gravitational forces and blah, 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 blah. So it's not exactly. But then now get farther out, and from the level of where we are spinning around the sun, now as a planet, we're pretty much spinning all together. And then go out farther than that, as we as a solar system are spinning around the galaxy. And then as a galaxy, we're spinning around a cluster. And as a cluster, we're spinning around a supercluster. And as a supercluster, we're toroidally likely spinning around the integral thing we call our universe, which in itself is spinning around a multiverse. You know? It's spin. It's all spin. And things they spin together and then they spin apart. They rendezvous for a moment and then I spin off my direction and you spin off your direction, and everything is spinning. Everything is spinning. Everything is whirling, says the whirling dervishes of the Middle East. So cool. It really is cool. The way all of the information comes together is spectacular. Try it for a minute. Addition consciousness as opposed to subtraction consciousness. Assume that all the information fits. All the information fits. It's not like I have this puzzle and some of these pieces go in this puzzle and some of them don't go in the puzzle, and I've got to decide what to put together because in a way this is true because you are also constructing yourself. And so what of this is me and what of this is not me? But then ultimately it's all me because I am one thing. And you are one thing. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave us? I haven't shared very many slides. This is the mathematical paper, The Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity. And I'm pushing this one. It's not the only one that Nassim has published. He has published other ones that have to do that. He published one in 2012. In December 12th, 2012, he published this. He did it for symbolic meaning because it was ready right about that time. Oh, let's just publish it right on this date. It perhaps gave it credibility in some arenas and took away credibility in other arenas. Oh, it's not a real math paper. It's just philosophical nonsense coming from those spiritual people or whatever. This is hard math. This is good math. And not only that, that original paper and that original unified understanding of physics, of how the quantum world actually does relate to the cosmological world in a scalar way. led to a new prediction of the radius of the proton, which was 4% different than what convention had it at the time. Conventional physics caught up, and it turns out, that better prediction for the radius of the proton is more accurate. And so this mathematics is producing accurate mathematical predictions in a real physical world. I would invite you to watch the 12 episodes of Nassim Haramein's Quantum Revolution. It will give you a general gist of what he's saying, the fullness of space, and what the appearance of material reality actually is. It's this Planck field spinning into appearance, and it can spin into other appearance. It can be anything. It's like this divine plasma that you are. You are the divine plasma. Here's the full abstract. And then I have all kinds of, I screen captured 13. I'm going to just do these really fast. I like, is that the one I like? It's actually this one I like better. I usually pause and show, every proton's a black hole and obeys Hawking radiation and actually will have evaporated in approximately 10 to the 35 billion years. I like that one. But this is all mathematics. It's all quantifiable. Gravity is quantifiable. And our better understanding of gravity is going to free us from the planet. We will not have to keep coating the planet in asphalt and concrete so that our earthbound vehicles can keep moving around them. We don't have to do that once we understand gravity. We can pick our frickin' vehicles up off the surface of the planet and zoom them around in the air just like the Jetsons. It seems impossible, but it isn't. The world we live in right now seems impossible to us that we were 100 years ago. Anything that we can imagine, we can be. So this is what a Planck actually is. It's a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter. It goes a certain length, it's really small. It takes a certain amount of time to do that, it's really short. And that teeny weeny bit of energy, because there is an equivalence between energy and mass, as Einstein pointed out, that eeny weeny bit of Planck mass there's the formula for that. This is what the Planck is. And this is what the quanta of the universe is made of. This is these little vacuum fluctuations winking back and forth across the 0-point energy field, the event horizon of the 0-point energy field. And as they wink across, they are spinning. Spin is fundamental. It is fundamental to the whole thing. And when it appears to be something, that's matter in front of me. What is it? Every proton is a little vortex of this Planck field, this really fine-grained ether spinning. That's what it is. That's what the universe is made of. And that's what you are made of. And I keep bringing it up because I keep thinking that it's really important. I think it's important. I think that what source energy is important because it's what you are. And it's also what humanity could be pulling its own energy from. We have been duped into believing that certain things are not possible when they are absolutely possible. If you can imagine it, it is possible. Because your imagination is actually your broader perspective giving your individual specific self a download of vibrational information of what reality could actually support. Now, how clear are you getting that message? Is it wild? Is it full of polka dot pink elephants and, upside down, crazy darkness or weird, maybe you need to straighten it out. But this is not like that. This can be imagined, and as a matter of fact, there's math behind it. And it's very, very cool. The other thing I always bring up, because I think that this is important to the whole picture, I believe that human beings were genetically modified. And it would have been whenever our scientists agree that anatomically modern humans appeared on the scene. We don't have the bones specifically that take us from the hominids that we were, or the primates, or whatever you would want to call whatever we were before. We don't have the bones leading up to anatomically modern humans. It's like we just appeared. The missing link is actually a genetic modification that, now that we are sophisticated enough to be able to analyze our genetics fully, we can see. So first of all, this right here, this is the general setup of the physical mind. That brain you got in your skull kind of operates this way. And that neocortex level is sort of a level that makes you uniquely human, and it's a lot bigger than it is on other mammals and other primates. It's kind of big. But it gives us an overview perspective, is what it does. The point of it is that it's large because of a genetic modification. Human chromosome number 2 is largely responsible for that size of that neocortex. And human chromosome number 2 is a particularly interesting chromosome. I have heard tell of other chromosomes that we have that have interesting characteristics. 7 is supposed to be responsible for some human characteristics that are head scratching. But this one is a fusion, telomere to telomere, and then redundancy. So if you had 2 chromosomes that fused, there would be some repeats within the sequences of those. Well, some of those redundancies have been clipped away, so that now it has to stay one in order for the whole function to be still there. It stabilized the fusion. And then on top of that, what it creates is the freaking neocortex. I don't think it was an accident. And then top it off with the idea that all across the planet, separately evolving cultures all have creation stories. Now, it absolutely could be abstract, they could be, hold on. What I'm saying is that it could be, and it's what I always thought it was just an analogy for incremental evolutionary processes. Or they could be literally saying, we were created. They took a naturally evolving primate, ape, hominid, I don't know what you would call what we were, but we were a naturally occurring species upon planet Earth. That's why our genetics matches all the rest of the planet. You know, we actually have alien technology in us more than we have alien DNA. The technology being the genetic capability of granting us an artificially large neocortex, giving us this overview, which actually makes us really cool. But you have to understand how it works. You got to really know that the basic setup of the universe is good, that you are good, that source is good, that overview that you're trying to understand is a good thing, not a bad thing, and your source mind knows it. Your negative mind comes from when your specific self notices something in the field that you do not like, and you don't have to like anything you don't like, notices something that you do not like, gets thrown into a negative state over it, and then stays there and evaluates the world from there. Makes existential proclamations from there. You know, this bad thing happened, therefore, life sucks. The world is effed, or whatever. Actually, it's not true. The world is absolutely positive. The setup is absolutely weighted in your favor. The caveat to that is if you don't know who you are, then it is really, really, really weighted against you. At least I kind of believe that that's so. And the more you do not understand who you are, the more it is weighted against you. And of course, that brings me to the point why I make this show. I think that generally more of us need to generally understand what our general setup is. It's not a secret anymore, and there's no real excuse for the general representative of mankind on this earth does not generally know what his general setup is anymore. There's no excuse for it anymore. It's causing us no end of trouble. No end of trouble with the rest of the natural world around us. No end of trouble with one another. When we butt up against one another and then we start fighting over conditions, and we do not understand what's primary, and we do not understand how our broader perspectives are trying to guide us. We don't know the meaning of our negative emotions. We think it's just a knee-jerk, ooh, I don't like that. There's way more to our negative emotions than just a knee-jerk, ooh, I don't like that. The fact that, oh, I don't like that, means that you just came up against a resonant or a lack of resonance with your broader perspective's view of the whole thing. Anyway, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, every day I come in and I do this show and I try to delineate the situation that we've got. We do have some interesting things coming up in the near historical future here in my neighborhood. My neighborhood being my country, which is a vast and extensive empire that stretches from sea to shining sea, as well as, way up in the upper northwest and then way out in the South Pacific. We've got territories. My empire stretches all over the place. And we've got an election coming up that I just don't even know what to think about, because how can it have come to pass that a nation that is supposed to be so democratic and such a shining example to all of the rest of the world, a nation of over 300 million people, and these two are the best that we could do? It is so revealing to our own deeper fundamental nature what has happened. And that's actually the meaning of it. It's not the physical meaning of the meaning of this whole thing. The object of the exercise was not necessarily to get the most perfect candidates in there running for president. The object of the whole exercise is for us to understand who we are. And this is really distilling it for us. And now you could immediately knee-jerk to what I really mean is this is showing us what crap we are. And that's not really what I mean either. It's just showing us that we are one, that we are individual, that we are a binary system, that our negative emotions can't be trusted, that our negative emotions are igniting Shiva energy that's causing destruction in the field around us, that our lack of self-awareness is causing us to summon demons from the energies around us, because we're like a bull in a china shop. We do not know what we're doing, and we have no real control over our energetic behavior. What else do I want to say? I kind of make the same circle every day. You got your emotional guidance scale, and then you got your emotional guidance scale. I like these because they show the momentum. Because law of attraction and momentum are the same idea. As you take a thought and start thinking it, every thought that has ever been thought still exists in the field. It's there. It's a frequency. You can pick it up. And as you pick up a thought, thoughts that occur on the same frequency of the thought you picked up as you're thinking it start to join it. And 15 to 17 seconds after having picked up the first thought, another one along the same frequency gets handed to you. It starts picking up momentum. And if you think a negative thought for very long, it isn't very long before you're off and running down that. It's one of the reasons why when I do this program, when I get to the place where I'm describing that which we don't like, I have to be careful about how long I stay there, because it doesn't take very long before that's what I'm talking about now, the sixth mass extinction, or the suffering of those people, or God forbid, vivisection, or, and then the next thing you know, my energy has dropped because I'm no longer plugged into source. I'm now looking at this thing that's negative. My negative mind is a thing that happens when I move away from the kinds of thoughts that resonate with my broader perspective. And those are the thoughts you want to take, because those are the thoughts that will build momentum, that will grant you impulses, that will lead you to actions and rendezvous and thoughts, and that will take you to where you want to go, instead of just an objective realization about what you've got. All of this objectivity is giving you a clear view of the good and the bad, and the bad and the good, and the good and the bad, and it's good and it's bad, and I like this and I don't like that. It's giving you that view, but it's disallowing you to be able to pick up any positive momentum coming from your broader perspective that will take you into places where you're sure about what you're doing, you're passionate about what you're doing, and no one can stop you from doing what you're doing, because you know what you want. And no longer are you objectively, I want this, but I don't like that, and it would be better if it was like this, but it wouldn't be so good if it was like that. And you quit doing that and start building that positive momentum. Don't be afraid that you'll be doing the wrong thing, because you're working in tandem with your broader perspective, who is going to, with that momentum, take you to a joyful place, take you to a connected place, take you to a passionate place where all things that you want are. You just got to listen to your inner being. Listen to her. Know who she is. Know how she's designed. Know how you are designed. So I notice with dismay that I am at the 1 hour and 48 minute mark, which means I've got to stop for another day. This is my favorite time of the day. Then I got to go out and bang around in the real world like everybody else does too, making real choices, what to eat, where to eat, how was it produced, what do I do with my time, what's fun, what feels like it's pulling me, find my own impulses, connect with the world around me. I've got to do it just like you do. This morning, me and my beloved are going to go out and play 9 holes of golf. We'll see how that goes. To be fair, I am looking forward to it. It should be fun. It's going to be a beautiful day, and I love my beloved. So, this brings me to that state, that time in the show where I have to wind it down. I have to say goodbye. I have to wrap it up. I don't know exactly how to do this yet at this point. For now, I have this silly, stupid, trite little sign-off sentence, which I'm going to do in just a second. Quickly, before I do that, 4 general states of being. I'll talk about this more tomorrow. I talked about it more yesterday. So I would encourage you, if you have any questions about what I've said or you're interested in learning more, I have been developing this for the last, like I said, I started recording in November of last year. I've started the practice of coming into my office and doing this basically 1.5 to 2 hour oral meditation. I started doing it at first in the dark and quiet without a recording, and then I started talking to myself, and then I started recording myself talking to myself, first on just a little recorder on my phone, and then on Audacity on my computer, and then from Audacity to OBS. OBS started back in November, and then I started posting those to YouTube in January. So there's an evolution that you could watch as you put what I've done together. And then basically I'm putting my own life together. I am integrating myself. I am trying to see the allness, the wholeness, the almighty that I am a part of. What's the last thing that I want to point out? Since I am postulating that our suffering is coming from us not knowing who we are, I've got to point out that there's this thing, it's the 5 kleshas of Buddhist philosophy, and they kind of believe the same thing. That us not knowing what is real is the biggest problem. Us not understanding the configuration of our own negative emotion, I would go on to say. And so with all of that, I will leave you for another day. I will come back tomorrow. God willing, I will be able to say something profound in a new way, because I don't want to just keep coming back into this space and repeating the same exact thing, although we are circling the same large territory. Who am I as source energy? What is source energy? What is our better understanding of source energy and cosmology and the origin of mass and the nature of gravity and all of that? The quantum field and all of that. So until tomorrow, when we will come back and do the same thing, again, hopefully in more and more original ways. Until tomorrow, I bid you peace, and may the source be with you.